on behalf of the School of Vedic Studies. We are having with His Holiness Atmanivedana Swami Maharaj. We are very grateful, as always, for his association and also the illuminations that he brings to the table on various subjects that are very, very important for us in our path of Krishna consciousness. So today's session is going to be basically 2 verses, which is the 34th verse of the 9th chapter and the 65th verse of the 18th chapter. And the subject matter is the essence of Bhagavad Gita, which deals with the mind and how it is the very essence of the instructions of the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita. So without much ado, Maharaj, over to you. Let's begin the session. And as usual, we'll finish at 8:30 our time, 5:30 Maharaj's time. So we'll have some, 45 minutes of talk and then about 10 or 15 minutes of Q&A session. Over to you, Maharaj. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
So just like last time, I've got a short PowerPoint.
Yes, and I'm also sorry that I did not give you the topic well in advance, but that won't happen the next time. We'll make sure that you'll have it.
Okay, let me share my screen.
Sure. So Maharaj, I'm going to make you the co-host so that you can then share the screen. Just one second, Maharaj. Yeah, Maharaj, you can share now.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we'll start.
Yes, Maharaj.
The 2 verses is Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 34, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 65. Om Jnana Trimanandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshuzamritam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Vanchakalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyascha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So today's topic, I have entitled it, Worship Me and Offer Your Homage unto Me. So these are the 2 verses which we'll discuss today. As we know, they are very similar verses. So we'll just go to the technicality of the verses so we understand what is similar and what is slight difference in the 2 verses. So of course, as the title goes and says, worship me and offer your homage unto me. So these 2 slides are very perfect by the perfect Acharya who is teaching us perfection worship and offering homage to the Lord. Prabhupada is in one slide offering artik, worshiping the Lord, and the other he's offering homage, prayers to the Lord. So on these meditative 2 slides, we'll go forward. Now text 9, text 34 of chapter 9 says, Manmana mad bhava madhyaji mam namaskuru mam evasi yuktaiva atmanam mat parayanam. So in this one, we can see that the verse, and then the next text we'll compare. Well, this is just word by word. And this translation is, engage your mind always in my thoughts. Sorry, engage your mind always in thinking of me. Become my devotee, offer your obeisances to me and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. Now, this is text 65 in chapter 18. The first 2 lines are same. Man mana bhav mad bhaktyo, madhyaji mam namaskuru. Then the next 2 lines, mam evasit satyam te rijana priyosime. So in this verse, Prabhupada is translating, always think of me, become my devotee, worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. There's two different concepts here. Krishna is in the 9th chapter. Krishna is giving the insight that you always think of me, offer homage unto me, worship me, become my devotee. And that is the underlying point. He's saying, become my devotee. So in the 9th chapter, Srila Prabhupada has translated the 9th chapter as the most confidential knowledge. And then the chapter 18 is conclusion. So we can see in these two comparisons side by side, the line in red is different. So in chapter 9, Krishna is saying, you become my devotee. Now in chapter 18, the conclusion, Krishna is saying that you will come to me surely because you are my very dear friend. So this again, the two translations are side by side for comparison. In 34, Krishna says, engage your mind always in thinking of me. Now, this is a very important point. In chapter 9, Krishna says, engage your mind always in thinking of me. Become my devotee. Offer obeisances to me. Worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. Now, further after speaking, chapter 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. Now in 18, Krishna is concluding the Bhagavad Gita. And the 18th chapter, again, he is repeating the first section of the verse, but then the second part is different. But interesting is that how Srila Prabhupada is translating the 65th text of 18th chapter. Always think of me. Become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Thus, you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. So there's a difference in the approach of Krishna giving Arjuna the knowledge. In the 9th chapter, he's giving the most confidential knowledge and he's enlightening him what he should be doing, what is his position. Then finally, he's concluding in the 18th chapter, he's saying, now that you've understood all these things, let me tell you and reassure you that if you are always thinking of me. Now, in the 9th chapter, Krishna says, engage your mind always in thinking of me. So the mind has to be engaged in thinking of Krishna at all times and become my devotee. But in the 18th chapter, Krishna says, always think of me. Become my devotee and worship me and offer homage unto me. Now, when is Krishna saying, always think of me, in the concluding chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying that now I'm preparing you ready for battle. You are now going to enter the mode of fighting in this battle, and therefore always keep me in mind. Always think of me. And when you do any activity with thinking of me all times, then all activities you perform will be free from any reaction or karma, good or bad. Therefore, always think of me when you're performing any activities. So it is very important that we understand these two different verses in a different context. Chapter 9, as I mentioned, is the most confidential knowledge. Chapter 18, conclusion, the perfection of renunciation. Now, leading up to text 34 in chapter 9, in text 32, Krishna is saying, "O Pritha, those who take shelter in me, though they be lower birth, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishya, merchants, or Sudras, workers, can attain the supreme destination." So here is a very important aspect that Krishna is saying that this knowledge which I am imparting to you, it is meant for all categories of people. And to emphasize that, he is saying in the text 32 that even though they may be of lower birth, they are still qualified to take my shelter and become my devotee. So to be a devotee of Krishna, you don't have to be in any particular caste, color, creed. Every person is permissible to become a devotee of Krishna. Therefore, it is very important to understand this in context, that when Krishna is speaking in Bhagavad Gita, he is not just telling Arjuna, but he's telling all mankind that this is the real business of your human birth. And therefore, nobody's barred from it. Of course, there are some scholars and some so-called philosophers who profess that you have to be a Brahmana. Only then you can understand the higher knowledge. But here Prabhupada is explaining what Krishna is saying. Krishna is saying, even though they be of lower birth, they can still attain the supreme destination. That is the most important aspect. It is in the purport Prabhupada saying, it is clearly declared here by the Supreme Lord that in devotional service, there is no distinction between the lower or the higher classes of people. In the material conception of life, there are such divisions. But for a person engaged in transcendental devotional service, to the Lord, they are not, everyone is eligible for the supreme destination. So this is the underlying basis what Prabhupada is explaining, that this knowledge is meant for everyone. Anyone who approaches the Supreme Lord, then they can take to this service. Therefore, Prabhupada is saying further in the purport, therefore, devotional service and the guidance of a pure devotee are they same, strong, that there is no discrimination between the lower and higher class of men. Anyone can take to it. The most simple man taking shelter of the pure devotee can be purified by proper guidance. So here Prabhupada is emphasizing that to take to devotional service, there is no particular class of people. Anyone who is ready at any stage can take shelter. So generally, the association of those born in sinful families is not accepted by the higher classes. But the process of devotional service is so strong that the pure devotees of the Supreme Lord can enable people of lower classes to attain the highest perfection of life. So generally, when you are born, it is not that by chance you are born in a particular family. It is explained in the scriptures that your birth takes place because of your karma and the activities and actions you have performed. That will decide in which category of birth you will get, higher class or lower class. As Krishna says, Suchinam Srimatam Gehe. Suchinam Srimatam, the pure birth, the aristocratic birth, that is awarded to those who are pure at heart. And of course, those who are sinful and contaminated, then they get birth in a lower class. Nonetheless, Krishna is saying, regardless of where your birth is, higher class or lower class, it is not important, because the process of devotional service is so strong that the pure devotee of the Supreme Lord can enable people of all lower classes to attain the highest perfection of life. This is possible. This is possible only when one takes shelter of Krishna, as indicated here by the word Vyapasita. One has to take shelter completely of Krishna. Then one can become much greater than the Gyanis and the Yogis. So there is a very good distinction given here, that one who takes shelter of Krishna, he will become greater than the Gyanis or the Yogis. So the whole concept of devotional service is explained in the scriptures. And there, as we have discussed in the past, there are 9 processes: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Ashram, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedana. These are the 9 principles of devotional service which we have to do. Now, the important lesson we can learn from these 2 verses from the Bhagavad Gita, Mam Namaskuru, that you bow down to me. What does that mean? Does it literally mean you bow down to the Lord? Or in another way of looking at it, when he says, Mam Namaskuru, that you bow down to me and offer your homage unto me, means that you approach the Supreme Lord with humility. That humbleness is the most important aspect. Without humility, you cannot enter into the spirit of devotion, because the first step of entering the spirit of devotion to who? Of course, devotion to the Supreme Lord Krishna. It could be that you may devote it to your family, your country, your society, your community. But here the very clear definition is there, that when you are devoted, that's why Krishna says, become my devotee, become devotee of Krishna. And therefore, when you become a devotee of Krishna, then you approach Krishna. Now, of course, Krishna is only interested in those who approach him with utmost humility. That humility is the key. And I have said this many times, that the key to Krishna's heart is humility. When we have humility, then we can enter Krishna's heart. And when we enter Krishna's heart, means that we actually understand Krishna. And then Krishna, when he sees that you are approaching him with humility and with proper understanding, then you will definitely be enlightened in this knowledge of bhakti or devotion. And as we all understand, there are many role models whom we can learn from, how to perfect all the different 9 forms of devotional service. Shravanam, we have to become perfect candidate for hearing. And in this picture, there's depiction of Parikshit Maharaj is a perfect Shravanam. His perfection of Shravanam is such that he is prepared to sit down and hear every word Sukadeva Goswami is saying with rapt attention. And he understands this very clearly. Therefore, Parikshit Maharaj is our role model, whom we try to follow and perfect our Shravanam. Why I say this is that many times our Shravanam becomes selective Shravanam. We hear what we want to hear and reject we don't want to hear. So we become selective hearer. So that is very important, that we have a perfection of our Shravanam. Second is the Kirtanam. The Kirtanam of chanting the holy names, we have to do it in the mood of love and devotion. And what does that mean? Mood of love and devotion means that our chanting should be simply in the mood and the consciousness that, is my chanting pleasing Krishna? As I mentioned last time also, there's most time when we chant, we think I'm chanting because I will become pure, my purification will take place, then I will get entrance in the spiritual world, I'll be able to go back to Godhead. It's all motivations. Now, nectar devotion, Rupa Goswami very clearly says, devotion means unalloyed, unmotivated, uncontaminated. So the mood of our chanting, if you want to desire perfection very quickly and enter the heart of Krishna, then we should be chanting for the pleasure of Krishna. And Smaranam, of course, here is a picture of Haridas Thakur sitting down there, doing his Shravanam and Kirtanam. Along with that, he's doing Smaranam, remembering Krishna at every point. He doesn't forget Krishna. So this is the most important aspect we follow. Then, of course, Pada Sevanam, to serve the lotus feet of Krishna is somewhat difficult in our conditioned state. And Archana, we try to do our best to worship the Lord, but even then, our heart and mind is not pure while we are worshiping the Lord. Therefore, it is somewhat difficult to worship the Lord. And we have to be careful that we don't just pay emphasis on Archanam, But most important is Prabhupada has given us the process is Sravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. And Dasyam, of course, is one of Hanuman. And then Sakyam, as Krishna is mentioning here in this verse itself to Arjuna, that I am promising you because you are my very dear friend. So, of course, you can't be any more dearer to Krishna than Arjuna, because not Arjuna only surrendered to Krishna, but he is a friend of Krishna, and therefore Krishna accepts him as a friend. And then, of course, the final total full surrender, which is not within our capacity at this stage in our Krishna consciousness. But nonetheless, as we follow this process, then definitely we will get elevation to that point where we will be fully surrendered. So there are, this chart is explaining very nicely the 6 stages of consciousness, 9 stages of devotional service. Of course, the 9 stages of devotional service we have just discussed now, and this is taught to us by Rupa Goswami in terms of following stage by stage elevation. So it is divided into two levels of consciousness. One is material consciousness and one is transcendental consciousness. Material consciousness is very clear, as you can see the chart: Anumaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya. That on mental platform, on material energy level, and of course Anumaya, that we live to eat rather than eat to live. On a transcendental consciousness, Jnanamaya, Vijnanamaya, and Anandamaya. Jnanamaya is the Vedic knowledge. And then Vijnan is the stage of self-realization. Anandamaya is the stage of pure love for Krishna. So these 3 levels will raise us to the highest platform. So in the beginning is Jnanamaya, is that we are on a Kanishta level, we develop preliminary faith, we have Shraddha. And as we develop faith in Krishna, then we seek out those who can increase our faith more and more by good association, and that is association of devotees, sadhu sangha. And when you have sadhu sangha, then the business of sadhu is only one, and that is to do bhajana kriya. Follow regulative principles of devotion. Do bhajan means chanting and hearing about Krishna, glorifying Krishna. So in a Kanishta level, these are possible through jnana, through knowledge. And when we have this knowledge imparted to us by the causeless mercy of the Lord and his pure devotee, then we come to the next stage of Madhyamadhikari, where anartha nivritti takes place, removal of all the anarthas, all the offenses, all the misgivings in our heart. And as we are being freed from all this contamination, then we develop steadiness and focus. As Krishna says, Eka Kuru Nandana, be focused and resolute in purpose. You have to be focused in one path and only one path, and that is the lotus feet of Krishna, and nothing else comes in your way. That Nishta, the firm faith develops. And then when firm faith is there, gradually it is transferred into Ruchi, taste for Krishna, that you will begin to appreciate the beauty of Krishna consciousness. And as you are relishing this beauty of Krishna consciousness more and more and more, then you become asakti. Your attachment to Krishna develops even deeper. And when your attachment to Krishna is so deep, then there's a transformation of Anandamaya, that you take great pleasure in being with Krishna, for hearing about Krishna, chanting Krishna's name. Everything is Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. There is nothing beyond Krishna. And that is stage of bhava, devotional ecstasy. And then that bhava, gradually, when you are fully realized and surrendered to the lotus feet of Krishna, then of course, prema comes. So there are 9 elements of prema bhakti. Number 1 is rati, developing a loving attraction for Krishna, prema, having that sweet love for Krishna, sneha, tenderness, mana, opposing feelings, pranaya, intimate relationship, raga, attachment, anuraga, secondary attachment, bhava, ecstatic love, and mahabhava, the higher types of ecstasies. So these are the different levels of exchanges we will experience as we are progressing in our Krishna consciousness. So in the beginning, the first one is rati, that loving attraction. And most people, even if they don't have so much devotion towards the Lord, but they have some appreciation. I can say this in my experience, that here at the manor, we get hundreds of devotees coming to see their beautiful form of Radha and Gokulananda. And when they see the beautiful forms of Radha and Gokulananda, they have appreciation. They say, oh, Krishna is so beautiful. He's so nicely decorated. Of course, that is a lower level of thinking, but still there is loving attraction to Krishna. Then this, as we progress in our spiritual journey, the different kinds of ecstasies will be experienced by us. So that is very important to note, that these are the different levels of feelings you will feel. And when you are experiencing this, then you will know that which one you are actually really experiencing. And that will also give you an indication of your level of advancement in Krishna's devotional service. There are 5 kinds of bhava bhakti. They are, as explained, different kind of rasas: Santara, Santhya, Santaras, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, and Madhuryavas. So these bhavas, or the feelings of nature, are natural to human beings. And so they are easy to practice. Practice whichever bhava suits you, your temperament. So of course, we are by nature, we have different kinds of attraction towards Krishna. We don't all have the same attraction. So some will worship Krishna in Santaras, some in Dasyaras, Sakyaras, Vatsalyaras, Madhuryaras. So in order to understand what is these different rasas, some slides and these slides will give you a deeper understanding. That Santaras, as Prabhupada describes in the Bhagavatam, is of those of transcendental animals who are in Golok Vrindavan. And Krishna has a very beautiful relationship with them. And the animals don't have any concept of chanting and glorifying the Lord, but they are simply fully satisfied by observing Krishna. And just by being with Krishna, they are completely in ecstasy. It doesn't mean that the Santaras experienced by the animals in the spiritual world is any lesser. On a higher platform, all rasas have the same ecstatic feeling of being with Krishna. So Santaras is there, and then most of us will fit into this category of Dasyaras, although it is very difficult to emulate the servitude attitude of Hanuman. Hanuman is an embodiment of Dasya. He performs service for the pleasure of Ramachandra and Mother Sita like nobody else can. And nonetheless, we cannot become Hanumans, but we can become like Hanuman. We can learn from him how to please the Lord and Master. And as we learn from Hanuman, then we can become perfect in our Dasya Ras. And ultimately, whether you are in Santaras, Dasyaras, Sakyaras, Vatsalyaras, or Madhuryaras, all accumulates in one in terms of service. Because even in the higher level of Madhuryaras, the gopis of Vrindavan are simply so happy to serve Krishna. They are serving Krishna. So basically, even though they are in the Madhurya Ras, but their position is of Dasya, serving. So ultimately, we will all be only in the Dasya Ras, but the experience of exchange with Krishna will be of a different nature. So this is Sakya Ras, Krishna with his friends enjoying in the groves of Vrindavan, on the banks of Jamuna, feasting and dancing and enjoying. Then, of course, Vatsalya Ras is one which we can know from Yashoda or Nanda Maharaj, who had tremendous fatherly, motherly love for Krishna. Even though by Yoga Maya's covering, they did not know that this is the Supreme Person of Godhead, but still the Yoga Maya covering doesn't stop that attractive nature of Krishna. Krishna is still naturally attracted to all. And therefore, Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj were very much attracted to Krishna. And of course, Madhurya Ras, where the gopis of Vrindavan enjoy very, very intimate relationship with Krishna, and they are very much focused in connection with Krishna. So all this is only possible if we take the process of bhakti, devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Now we have to understand that what it constitutes to come to this highest level of Krishna consciousness is by fully focusing ourselves on becoming a devotee of Krishna. And this is what the 9th chapter and the 18th chapter is concluding. And as Krishna says, become my devotee. So we have to learn this most important aspect and what constitutes becoming a devotee of Krishna. On a superficial level, we understand that becoming a devotee of Krishna means, we take to the process of devotional service, then we have an external change. For man, he shaves off his head and puts tilak on his forehead, wears kuntimala and devotional garb as dhoti, kurta. Ladies, they wear sari and they also wear neck beads and put a tilak. These are general external signs of a devotee. But that doesn't make you a devotee. A devotee means that when you are fully focused in serving Krishna. And therefore, Krishna says, always think of me and become my devotee. Offer homage unto me. Worship me. So how we can do this is we can learn one from the scriptures, these descriptions given as Jnana Marga of knowledge, and then to put this knowledge into practice. And then when we practice this knowledge, then gradually we raise to the highest level of developing attachment to Krishna. And then Krishna becomes our soul and whole. He is everything for us. There is nothing beyond Krishna. Now, how we can come to this, as we've already seen in the slide presentation, that there are different forms of devotional service we can engage in under the expert guidance of a spiritual master. So it is very important that we take lessons from the spiritual master who's an embodiment of devotional principles. He practices this bhakti yoga, and therefore he can show us by his own example how we can perfectly become devotee of Krishna. And these, of course, we don't have to go too far looking for a role model. The perfect role model, as far as I see myself, my own experience, is His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Prabhupada. The more and more we understand Srila Prabhupada, the more and more we will increase our understanding of Krishna. Because Srila Prabhupada, from the very beginning of his life, he is only interested in glorifying the Lord. Even though as a young child, as a 3-year-old, 4-year-old baby, he was being taken by his babysitter to the school. On the way to the school, the babysitter would take, the neighborhood children and then take them all together and stop over at Raja Govindji temple in Calcutta. And all the children would say, freedom, let's enjoy in the courtyard. So they are all running around in the courtyard and playing. And what does Prabhupada do? Prabhupada immediately goes to the altar, and with that deep gaze in his eyes, he's looking at that beautiful form of Radha Govinda. And he's so absorbed in Radha and Govinda. And then at a later stage, when he's a young boy, about 5 to 6 year old, he tells his father that I want to hold a Rath Yatra in our neighborhood. So his father, of course, a great devotee, arranges to make a small Rath cart with the small Jagannath, Baladev, Subhara deities, and is engaging the neighborhood in pulling the Rath cart and chanting and dancing, distributing prasadam, and showing that how wonderful this devotional service is, how wonderful it is to engage in Krishna consciousness, worship of the Lord, and becoming Krishna conscious. And then all through his life, even to the point where he's going to the university, his father had gifted him a small set of Radha and Krishna, which he was worshipping them in his university days. And then all through his life, he's showing us how to become perfectly situated in our devotional service. Then, of course, at a later stage, as Prabhupada said, that when he first met his spiritual master, as a young man looking forward to a full life. And then when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur recognized that here is someone very special, there was no introduction or anything, but he was right at the back on the rooftop. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati looked at him and said, "You are a young man, well educated in English. Speak this message to the English-speaking world." And Prabhupada understood that, yes, he's telling me to take this message. And then, of course, all through his time, Prabhupada is meditating on how to execute this mission. And Prabhupada says that when he officially took shelter from his spiritual master, it was 3 years before his spiritual master departed from this material world. So in the 3 years, Srila Prabhupada met him a number of times in Calcutta, in Mayapur, and then in Radhakund. That famous walk in Radhakund, when they are circumambulating the Radhakund and Shyamakund, Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur Maharaj, Prabhupada, told Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktivedanta Swami, that if you ever get money, print books. And that stuck in Srila Prabhupada's heart. And he said, how can I fulfill this? And of course, we know from his biography now that Prabhupada worked very hard to put down all these words on piece of paper, and then they were transformed into wonderful books, the Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sri Bhagavad Gita, and a number of other books, almost 80 pieces of literature Prabhupada had translated into English with so much dedication. And he is showing us this path of devotion, how to become perfectly fixed in Krishna. So I recommend all of you who are listening to this presentation today, that please, you all read Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. The 6 volumes of Lilamrita will give you a very in-depth understanding of Prabhupada, the person who was only interested in one thing and only one thing: how to elevate the mankind in this world to the platform of devotee. As Krishna says, become my devotee, worship me and offer homage unto me. So Prabhupada was so much intensely focused to enlighten the fallen conditioned living entities to become devotees of Krishna. And when they become devotee of Krishna, then of course, Prabhupada has given all his literature to us to dwell into it as Jnana Marga. Then we can get this knowledge and then put it into practice and then come to the highest Anandabhaya, where we can be in blissful Krishna consciousness and full ecstasy. So it is very, very important that we actually understand Srila Prabhupada as our role model to teach us how to get into the depth of devotional life. Otherwise, we are so much caught up in our day-to-day life and our day-to-day existence, and mostly we spend all our time, quality time, I would say, for our livelihood. But giving to Krishna, we give little time. But still, Krishna says that in whatever circumstances of state of being you are in, whether you are brahmachari, whether you are grihastha, whether you are vanaprastha, whether you are sannyasi, doesn't matter. Whether you are a Sudra, whether you are a Vaishya, you are a Satriya, you are a Brahmana, try to give some quality time to Krishna. And as we become more and more connected with Krishna and give that quality time to Krishna, then Krishna in his own transcendental way will make some special arrangements that he will free us from all our material obligations, and we will be focused in our devotional service to the Lord and make advancement in spiritual journey, that to the point where we come to the end of the line, where Krishna says, now that you have perfected your journey, the doors to the Goloka are open, and you enter very happily into the spiritual world without any attachment or regrets living behind in the material world. This is the perfection of understanding of how to become a devotee. As Krishna says in the 9th chapter, most confidential knowledge, saying that this is the most confidential part I'm telling you, Arjuna, become my devotee, offer homage unto me. And then in the concluding chapter of, in the 18th chapter, concluding verses, Krishna says, again, emphasizing, become my devotee, always think of me. And you will come to me. Why? Because you are my friend. So hopefully, by the end of reading Bhagavad Gita from the first chapter, Dharma Setra, Kurukshetra to last verse of the 18th chapter, we should sufficiently have developed enough attachment and attraction for Krishna that we begin as an inquisitive person, and as we are learning more and more, then we become become more and more knowledge about Krishna consciousness, and then gradually we become friends of Krishna, because now we know more and more about Krishna. And the more and more you know about Krishna, the more you will become Krishna's friend. And when you become Krishna's friend, and Krishna says, I also become your friend. And when you have depth of friendship, then the loving bond becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. Only through friendship we can raise ourselves to that highest platform. And this is what Krishna is saying, that develop that understanding, become my friend. And how we can become Krishna's friend is as we become more and more familiar with Krishna, we understand Krishna more and more. And of course, by mercy of Srila Prabhupada, he has given very in-depth understanding of Krishna through his books. All we have to do is study these books sincerely, and Krishna will be revealed to us, and then we'll become Krishna's friend, and the perfection will be reached. So I think it's 5:21 for me, or 8:21 for you. So I will stop here. If anybody has any questions or comments you want to share with me, we'll be more than happy.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you very much. Before we take on questions and comments, I must say what a wonderful journey you took us through. I have to say that the perspectives that you gave us today of these two verses were very, very refreshing, and indeed had, the way you weaved in, the verse in the 9th chapter that talks about the, even the lower end, be it a Shudra, everyone, bhakti is all encompassing. It is available to everyone. And then you took us through the various levels of bhakti. And finally, Maharaj, thank you so very much for bringing up a very important point where you really presented Srila Prabhupada as the epitome of the perfection that you spoke about today from these two verses, and urging all of us to...
Slides.
Sorry?
The first slide of Prabhupada worshipping and
Yes.
offering homage.
Yes.
That is my inspiration. And that is why I started with Prabhupada and ended with Prabhupada, is saying that anything, if you want to learn the secrets of bhakti, here is a person who can take us into the depth of bhakti.
Absolutely, Maharaj. And then urging to read the Leela Amrita. So I think that's so very important. Thank you so very much, Maharaj. It was really wonderful. My next request to you would be that the last presentation in this one, we'll be very grateful that if you could share it with us so that we can share it with all the students, all the devotees, all the participants who come. They can all have these presentations, and the further they can study. And if there are any questions, we can always come back to you and ask.
I did send you the last week's.
Yes, I did get that.
I will send you this one also. Although
Yes.
I didn't, I had a very short time to prepare this.
No, I think it was absolutely wonderful, Maharaj. And really, I would personally like to have it and then share it with all the devotees. And we would like to, kind of run through it again and go a little more deeper based on what you taught us today. So that's second. And third thing is that Murlidhar Prabhu and his good wife, Anasuya Mataji, also came forward and they're willing to do the transcriptions of your sessions with us. So that would also be something. So I thank them, and I encourage anyone else, please come forward so that we can have that service be done also. We've got a question from Anupama Radharani Mataji. I would like to, that was the first question that we received, and then we've got two hands up. So her question to you, Maharaj, is, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my respectful obeisances. You said we should be chanting for the pleasure of Krishna. What should we think while chanting? Should we think about interacting with the Lord or his pastimes, or just attentively hear the Maha Mantra? That's part number one. The next part is, in the conditioned stage of life, does the devotee experience and relish a certain bhav, relationship with the Lord, although it may not be his swaroop? These are the two questions.
Yeah, the first part, of course, is very simple, that when we are chanting, as I said, we should chant with the mood of pleasing Krishna. And when we are chanting, and in that mood, in that consciousness that my chanting, I'm only doing this to please Krishna. And we pray in our mind, in our hearts, Krishna, let this be pleasing to you. Then that is the mood. Of course, whatever reciprocation Krishna gives you is up to him. So from a devotee side, his only business is that I want to make Krishna happy. And from our understanding, from the acharyas, and Srila Prabhupada said that Krishna becomes very happy, especially Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he came to this material world to propagate the holy name of the Lord. He himself was showing what pleases him, and he himself was dancing and chanting in ecstasy simply for Krishna's pleasure. So he, as a role model, also is teaching us how to develop that mood simply for the pleasure of the Lord. So when we are chanting japa, then we should think that, Krishna, please let this be pleasing to your ears. I'm chanting this to make you happy, because I know when I chant your holy name, it makes you happy. So that's the mood. And automatically, the remembrance of Krishna will be there. Then if some by transcendental arrangement, Krishna gives you some insight, then it's a different matter. But that is up to Krishna's prerogative. And the second one, at whatever level we are, whether we are Kanishta, we are Madhyam, or we are Uttamadhikari, it doesn't really matter, because Krishna very clearly says in the Bhagavad Gita, Yatha mam prapiyante. As you reciprocate with me, I will reciprocate with you. So in terms of experiencing ecstasies of different bhavas, we do get a glimpse of it every now and then. It is not a long-lasting ecstasy, but there is a short pulses, I would say, of that feeling of happiness, which we derive by connecting with Krishna, and Krishna reciprocates that. So I would say enjoy while you're getting that pulses and glimpses of these ecstasies, being with Krishna, and that brings you happiness. But naturally, as we are making progress, that ecstasies will increase in its longevity. And when you are fully absorbed, then 24/7 you will be fully in ecstasy. That is possible. But we cannot do it artificially, because if you try to do that artificially and think, oh, I'm very happy, yes, I'm Krishna conscious, and try to give that a falseness of your happiness in Krishna consciousness, it will not last long, because the false facade can only be put up for a short time. But if it's natural, then it will show natural happiness. So just like, for example, I give this example, that someone who is genuinely happy with you and very happy to see you, and they will come with a big smile on their face, say, hey, I haven't seen you for a long time. And there's such a big smile on the face and appreciation of you. Okay, that is genuine appreciation of happiness being expressed by that person, because that person may have not seen you for some time, and that separation has made that fondness grow even deeper. So when you see that, genuine happiness being displayed, then you know that this is genuine happiness coming from. Then on the other hand, I give this example quite often, is that when you enter the plane and the air hostess is there with a big smile saying, welcome, good morning, sir, good morning, madam, welcome, welcome, and there's a big smile. But that smile is not genuine of welcome. She's getting paid to do that. Inside her mind is thinking, oh God, again, just put on a false smile. So you know that there's a false smile and a false welcome, because that welcome is not natural. So we have that intelligence to distinguish between genuine welcome and a false welcome. So when we are experiencing the genuine happiness derived by the process of bhakti, it will show by itself. It is self-effulgent and self-manifesting in the heart, in the mind, and that we just have to leave it to Krishna again, because we cannot practice Krishna consciousness on the basis that I will get this kind of feelings or this kind of ecstasies. These are stages which are enlightening us. Yes, these are the stages, but let it come natural. So I say it's a combination of our consciousness and the mood in which we do our practice of Krishna consciousness, whether it's chanting or worshipping or even reading scriptures, whatever we do, it has to be done simply with the mind that I'm doing this because it makes Krishna happy. And that is the bottom line.
And Anupama Radharani Mataji, is that okay? Can we?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my respectful obeisances.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj, for the wonderful explanation.
You're welcome.
And
Hare Krishna.
I will definitely keep these things in mind. I'll, not just while chanting, but as much as possible, I will keep this. I'll try to be in this consciousness.
It is good to practice this consciousness, because when you do that, you'll feel that very unique kind of happiness that can only be experienced, cannot be spoken.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. So Maharaj, we have two devotees in the waiting, but we have some comments. First from Sunaja Mataji. She sends, Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Appreciating today's session. She says, explained all the tips to make Krishna our friend. Now it's devotees' part to make it perfect and relation with Krishna to develop in depth. Hare Krishna. And she is also volunteered for transcription or any other service, Maharaj. So Sunaja Mataji has been associating with us regularly, daily for our Bhagavad Gita classes. So on behalf of Sunaja Mataji, we seek blessings for her from you, Maharaj, and she's come forward to do the transcriptions of your session. So that's from her. She's based in Sharjah, Maharaj. And then we have another question from Ravi Pati Damodar Prabhu. And please accept my humble obeisances, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Why we get more bhava and ecstasy during kirtan than chanting the holy names?
You see, I gave this one example one time. Somebody asked me, and I told him, if you are sitting down and there is a big feast and you have 20, 30 preparations all in front of you, but you're all alone, how much are you going to relish that? Although it's all beautiful, but at the same time, when you have 10, 15, 20 devotees together and all of you are relishing the feast together, how much pleasure it becomes. So sometimes when we are doing congregational chanting, then collective spirit of everyone is pulled in and you feel that special kind of happiness and bliss, and you don't you're taken on a different level where you're not conscious of your surroundings anymore. You're so joyously chanting and hearing, chanting and responding. The kirtan and the instruments of music, kartals, mridanga, you are just enjoying. So just like the feast, when you enjoy with a lot of people, then it brings great pleasure. But the same feast, if you're just sitting alone on a dining table and nobody to share with, then it's still relishable, but it's not going to bring that ecstasy. So I say that japa is for personal self-control, that you sit down and you chant the prescribed rounds with meditative consciousness to have personal purification. And then when you are in the accompaniment of devotees doing kirtan, then there is a collective consciousness put together. And everyone's collective consciousness, little put together, becomes one big whole happy situation. And that is why you're not just feeling your own ecstasy, but you're feeling the ecstasies of the others pulled in together. So you're sharing. And that is why kirtans are very, very pleasurable and very, very enjoyable when it's an enthusiastic kirtan. Of course, not necessarily loud kirtan, because I'm not a fan of loud kirtan. Loud kirtan just is painful to the ears. So I say the kirtan should be very melodious and very pleasurable, but collectively we should chant very nicely, so that collective consciousness brings about that happiness. That is my understanding of why we feel much more comfortable in a kirtan, because we are relishing it together. And that is why Prabhupada also says that if you are in association devotees, you will feel much more protected and also much more comfortable. So therefore, even japa, even though you are doing your own japa, but you should do it collectively, like we normally do in the temple room in the morning after Tulsi Puja. We are all sitting there, or some walking around the Tulsi chanting japa. It will become much more pleasurable than you sit in a quiet place on your own and chant. It is also okay, nothing wrong with that, but tendency is that the mind wanders off and all kinds of thoughts begin to come, and you become disturbed in your chanting. Therefore, it is nice to chant in association of devotees, so that it brings about a collective consciousness of chanting.
Thank you, Maharaj. So we have now two devotees before we will end the session. Their hands are up. So Vrindavan Shyam Prabhu, please speak up, unmute yourself, and after that, Muralidhar Prabhu. Vrindavan
Please
Shyam
accept
Prabhu.
my yes. Hare Krishna, Guruji.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Please accept my respectful obeisances, Maharaj. My question is like, what you said about the 5 types of consciousness: Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Jnanamaya, Vijnanamaya, and Anandamaya. And how does this how does this 3 modes vary this? Because we are there in the material world, still in the material world, and how does this vary, and how we can grow over this, like from Anandamaya stage to Pranamaya stage and Manomaya stage, Jnanamaya stage, like that? How can we grow like Maharaj? That's what I was asking.
One thing you have to understand, that when we are in the material world, the very nature of the material world is that it is influenced by the 3 modes of material nature: ignorance, passion, and goodness. So we are not exempted from that. But Krishna says to Arjuna in the Bhagavad, "Oh Arjuna, rise above these 3 modes." Then of course Krishna is explaining the whole Bhagavad Gita, how to rise beyond the influence of 3 modes of material nature. And that is when you are fully focused in the process of bhakti, then the 3 modes of material nature, mode of ignorance, mode of passion, and mode of goodness, will not touch you or impact you. And the example I give, that you have to become like a duck. And when the duck goes into the water pond, although it is surrounded by water, it is not affected by the water. And when that same duck, when it comes out of the pond, it is still dry. Therefore, the water did not touch the duck, although the duck went into the water. So similarly, Prabhupada says we become a devotee of Krishna and fully focused in our Krishna conscious practice, then at that point, the three modes of material nature cannot penetrate you. So there is a shield which is created around us of bhakti, a protective shield of bhakti. And that protective shield of bhakti will stop the three modes entering us. But if our concentration and focus is not proper, as I mentioned earlier on, that Krishna says, Eka Kuru Nandana, be focused and resolute in your purpose, then these other things will start penetrating through. So in order to make the shield very strong, we have to focus. And when you're fully focused in the principle of whatever service you're doing, whether you are chanting japa, or you're doing kirtan, or whether you're worshipping the deity, or whether you're cooking for the deity, or whether you're decorating them, it should be done with full focus. And when the full focus is there on Krishna, then the shield of Krishna is around us, and that shield will then protect us from the influence of the three modes. And the more and more you become focused, the more and more the shield gets stronger. The stronger the shield, the lesser the impact of the material modes will be there on us. But it is for us to ward away these material modes, because it is within our own capacity whether we invite them or we reject them. So if we act in such a way, the modes will be quite happy to penetrate us, then they will influence us. If we are rising above these modes by becoming a devotee of Krishna and just focusing on Krishna, and as I said, Krishna's power of shield will be there, and these three modes will not touch us. That is why Prabhupada says, if you're living in a spiritual environment, then there's a shield which is protecting us from the influence of three modes of material nature.
Hare Krishna. Mulidhar Prabhu, please speak up, unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, our humble obeisance to Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Maharaj, I have two questions, Maharaj. The first question is, like Manmana Mat Bhakto, here Krishna is saying, engage your mind always in thinking of me. Srila Prabhupada in his purport in 1865 saying, we should focus our mind only on Krishna's original form, that is Tribhangi position. Why, Maharaj? This is the first question. Then the second question is, in verse number 932, Krishna is saying like, O Prata, those who take shelter in me, though they be lower of birth, women, Vaishya, and Sudras, can attain the supreme destination. Here, this is just I would like to relate Krishna's form, Maharaj. Is there any relation that Krishna's form and this verse? Means Krishna's form is black, that is Sudras mostly, and Krishna's is very soft, that is like human nature, and he born in Vaishya's family. So is there any relation that Krishna's form and this verse, Maharaj? Thank you very much, Maharaj.
No, I don't think so. Anything to do with that. What Prabhupada is mentioning that verse as translating Krishna's words is that even if you are in a lower category, generally in the society, women are not considered on equal level. Although on a spiritual understanding, there's no difference between men and a woman. But the society way it is, they consider women as lower, second class. And that is why we find in the history of mankind that women have always fought for equality, from the very beginning. And now we have reached a certain political correctness where we give equal opportunity to both men and women. So this, Krishna is saying that this is a false notion. There is no such thing as lower or upper class. It is just our circumstances. But of course, as Krishna is saying that when you become my devotee, then you are not considered as this caste or that creed. You are considered just purely on your merit that you are my devotee. And that is that one understanding. And of course, in the 18th chapter verse where Prabhupada is saying that we must remember Krishna's form in his original Vrindavan form. So of course, Prabhupada is saying that there are other forms like Rama, Vishnu, Varaha, that we are not attracted to this form, only we are attracted to the supreme form of this of Krishna as original Golok Vrindavan. Although we may have some attraction towards Lord Ramachandra, or maybe some devotees are so much fearful of this material world that they take shelter of Nrsingadev and they just constantly praying to Nrsingadev for protection. But that very same Nrsingadev is also Krishna. So if you pray to Krishna, you will get the same protection as Prahlad got from the appearance of Nrsingadev. The only reason Nrsingadev came as Nrsingadev because there were certain conditions placed by Brahma to protect Hiranyakashipu. And therefore Krishna says, okay, I will not violate my pure devotees' blessings. So I'll honor them. At the same time, I will come and destroy Hiranyakashipu without violating the blessings which were given by Brahma to Hiranyakashipu. So we have to understand that the all beautiful loving form of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is Sri Krishna of Goloka, Braja. So we are only interested in Braja Krishna. Although you said that Krishna was born in a Vaishya family, he wasn't born in a Vaishya family. He was raised in a Vaishya family. He was born to Devaki and Vasudeva, who are Satriyas. So that is irrelevant. Whether you are, Krishna takes his appearance in a Satriya family or in a Brahmana family. Like, for example, Kapila, he came as the Kadama Muni, and Devahuti were Brahmanas, sages. So sometimes Krishna comes as a Brahmana, sometimes as a Satriya, sometimes as a Vaishya, sometimes even as a Sudra. And then there is that Varaha. Varaha is nothing Brahmanical or higher caste. It's a lower. But Krishna appears because this condition is not affecting Krishna. Krishna is showing by his different transcendental appearance in different forms to show that he is equal to all. It is only our material perception when we see higher and lower. So when Prabhupada is mentioning, then if you read the purport to the 34th verse in the 9th chapter, Prabhupada is mentioning that there is a lot of speculation of the Supreme Lord and tendencies to see him as impersonal. So Prabhupada is saying that we are not interested in all this. We are only interested in Golok, Braj, Vrindavan, Krishna, and that beautiful threefold bending form where his, darkish hue, it's not black. Of course, because sometimes we see the deity is made of black stone, then we think, oh, Krishna is black. Or sometimes we see Krishna's deity made of white stone, so we think he's white. But the actual description given is of the rain cloud hue, which is very, very definitive, beautiful color. That is the tone of Krishna's skin color. At the same time, Krishna is not bound by the one color of skin. He can come in any color he likes. So, in the golden avatar, he comes as golden hue. In one Varaha, he comes as red. In one Varaha is white. And then other one is different colors. In Ramachandra, he was slight greenish hue. So, Krishna comes in many different colors. Colors are not restricting Krishna. But we have to see that when Prabhupada is saying in the concluding chapter of the 18th chapter, where he's saying that we should worship Krishna in the Golok Vrindavan form, that is our meditation of that original form, because that is the original form of the Lord. As Prabhupada also cites in the purport, if you read, that Lord Brahma, in his Brahma Samhita, is glorifying Govinda. And what is that beautiful form of Golok Vrindavan? That is the original form, and from him many other avatars come. So we don't say that all the other avatars are any lesser. Ishopanishad says all that completely emanates from him is still complete and whole. He doesn't diminish in power. But according to his Leela, he performs different, exhibits different powers. But as Krishna, he is whole and soul. That's why he's saying Purna Purushottam Krishna. He's complete Krishna. He is exhibiting all his qualities as Vrindavan Krishna. Therefore, that is the form which we worship. That is the form which we meditate on. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So thank you very much. Let me check if there's, just in case, another. No, there isn't any. So we will, it is 5:50 at Maharaj's end and 8:50 at our end. And I think this culminates our session today. And let's all pay our respectful obeisances to Maharaj. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha
Kalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyo pavanebhyo
namo namah.
Vaishnavibhyo namo namah.
Or Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
His Holiness Atmanivedana Swami Maharaj,
Ki jai.
His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai,
Jai.
ISKCON Guru Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
So Maharaj, we're very grateful. Thank you again. And thank you to all the devotees, the participants, for being attentively listening into this session. We also urge and request you all to kindly visit the YouTube channel of School of Vedic Studies, like and subscribe and circulate to one and all, so that everyone gets the benefit of these beautiful sessions by Maharaj. Hare Krishna. So devotees, you all can please convey your pranams to Maharaj. You're all there with him through Zoom before we end the session. I can see Ravi Pati Damodar Prabhu. You asked a question.
Yeah, thank you, Maharaj, for wonderful answer. Because I was always thinking how to relate this and afraid to ask the question. But why Kirtan? Because we dance and we are feeling. So now I could correctly understand the difference between self japa and Kirtan, and it cleared my mind. And all the class was wonderful, and I'm very thankful, Maharaj, for your time. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Hare Krishna.
Anybody else wants to say anything to Maharaj? This is your chance.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dhanvat Pranam ji.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
As you said, Maharaj, it is really enlightenment for all of us and very wonderful session. We really, we are blessed to have you, and we are grateful to Rashtra Prabhuji to, he has been very kind enough to make this arrangement for all of us to get alignment in our Krishna consciousness way, Prabhuji. Maharaj, thank you very much.
I think this is, we have to thank Srivan Karuna. We are forced to come on to Zoom classes and associate and Sadhu Sangha by Sriman Karuna Prabhu. So
it's also Maharaj, the mercy of Krishna ji ki tum sab log aise to hi miloge ek saath mein. It's really wonderful. Dhanvat Pranam Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Sunaja Mataji, you want to say something?
Dhanvat Pranam.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Maharaj. I'm traveling, but still I'm I don't want to miss the class. So I'm just listening to you, Maharaj. So very enlightening class as always.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj. Yeah, Hare Krishna.
So thank you again, Maharaj. Bless us all, and see you again next Saturday at 7:30 p.m. And I'll send you the next session's topic well in advance. Thank you very much. And thank you all. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Dhanvat Pranam Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.